One country has been the world's most visited for 30 straight years, and its people are begging tourists to leave. In 2024, 1.45 billion people crossed international borders. That's 1 in every 5 humans on Earth traveling to another country. But only 10 nations capture the lion's share of those tourists. And the stories behind these rankings reveal something far more complex than pretty landmarks and good weather. One country generates $215 billion from tourism, more than the GDP of 150 nations. Another saw visitors surge 47% in a single year because its currency collapsed. And the number 1 destination? Locals are literally squirting tourists with water guns, begging them to go home. These are the 10 most visited countries on Earth, and the reasons they dominate will surprise you. Number 10. Greece. In 2024, 36 million tourists descended on a country with just 10.4 million people. That's nearly 3.5 tourists for every single Greek citizen. And the pressure is showing. On Santorini, an island of just 16,000 permanent residents, single days in 2024 saw up to 17,000 cruise passengers flood ashore. That's more visitors in one day than the entire population. The government responded with a €20 cruise passenger surcharge and a daily cap of 8,000 cruise visitors. At the Acropolis in Athens, a mandatory booking system now limits entry to 20,000 visitors per day. Tourism contributes over 20% of Greece's GDP, the highest ratio on this list. Greece generated $22 billion in tourism revenue in 2024. But here's the tension. 72.5% of Greeks say they're concerned about overtourism. Greece isn't just a top destination anymore. It's a country wrestling with the question every tourism-dependent nation must face. How much is too much? Number 9. Japan. In 2024, Japan welcomed 36.9 million international visitors, a 47% surge from the previous year. That's not just growth. That's an explosion. And the catalyst? A currency crash. In June 2024, the Japanese yen hit 161 per dollar, its weakest level since 1989. Suddenly, a country once considered expensive became a bargain. A bowl of ramen in Tokyo costs $3. A night in a traditional ryokan that once ran $300 dropped to under $150. Tourism spending now exceeds Japan's exports of steel and semiconductor equipment combined. But the explosion came with consequences. Kyoto announced plans to increase hotel taxes by nearly 10 times. Mount Fuji implemented a mandatory 2,000 yen entry fee and a daily cap of 4,000 climbers. And Japan's government set a stunning target, 60 million annual visitors by 2030, which would make it the 4th most visited country on Earth. The irony is extraordinary. Japan's economy weakened, and the world showed up to take advantage. Whether that's a rescue or an invasion depends on who you ask. Number 8. Germany. Here's a country that doesn't market itself as a tourist destination, and 37.5 million people show up anyway. Germany is the quiet giant of global tourism. While France has the Eiffel Tower and Italy has the Colosseum, Germany runs on a different engine entirely: business travel. Frankfurt hosts over 50 international trade fairs annually. Munich's Oktoberfest alone draws 6.7 million visitors in just 16 days. Berlin has quietly become one of Europe's most visited cities, with its blend of Cold War history, street art, and a nightlife scene that draws people from around the world. Germany generated $40 billion in tourism revenue in 2024. But what makes Germany unique on this list is efficiency. German airports consistently rank among Europe's best connected. The Autobahn network is legendary, and the rail system, despite complaints from locals, moves 12 million passengers daily. Germany doesn't sell the dream. It sells the infrastructure. And 37.5 million visitors a year say that's enough. Number 7. The United Kingdom. Of every country on this list, the UK extracts the most money per tourist. Each international visitor spends an average of $2,020, more than double what tourists spend in France. The total? $84.5 billion in tourism revenue from 41.8 million visitors. London alone accounts for over half of all international arrivals, making it one of the most visited cities on the planet. But the UK's tourism story extends far beyond London. Scotland's Whiskey Trail, the Lake District, Bath's Roman ruins, the Cotswolds. The UK has an extraordinary density of UNESCO sites, royal palaces, and literary landmarks that create repeat visitors. And there's a hidden economic engine: international students. Over 680,000 international students studied in the UK in 2024, each spending on average £25,000 per year. They're not counted as tourists, but they generate more tourism visits from family and friends. The insight: the UK doesn't just attract tourists, it creates an entire ecosystem that pulls people back again and again. That's why per visitor spending is nearly double the global average. Number 6. Mexico. 45 million international tourists visited Mexico in 2024. And here's the uncomfortable truth: 68% of them never left their resort. Mexico's tourism industry is built on the all-inclusive model. Cancun's Hotel Zone, a 23-kilometer strip of resorts, receives 10 million visitors a year. That's one in every 4.5 tourists to the entire country, concentrated on a single strip of beach. Each visitor spends an average of just $620, the lowest per visitor spending of any country on this list. Compare that to the UK's $2,020. The math tells a story. Mexico captures volume, not value. But a quiet revolution is underway. Over 25,000 digital nomads, mainly from the US and Canada, have relocated to the Mexican Caribbean since 2020. Tulum now welcomes 2 million visitors annually. And cities like Oaxaca, Guanajuato, and Mexico City are drawing travelers who want culture, not cabanas. Mexico is the 6th most visited country on Earth. The question is whether it can transition from selling cheap beach vacations to showcasing one of the world's richest cultures. We're halfway through, and a clear pattern is emerging. 7 of the top 10 most visited countries are in Europe, and 3 of them are dealing with open anti-tourism protests. It seems the more tourists a country attracts, the more its own citizens push back. But here's what makes the top 5 fascinating. Number 5 has the most UNESCO World Heritage Sites of any nation. Number 4 is growing faster than anyone predicted. Number 3 generates more tourism revenue than the next 4 countries combined. Number 2 is where locals literally attack tourists with water guns. And number 1 has been untouchable for 3 decades. Let's get into it. Number 5. Italy. No country on Earth packs more cultural density per square kilometer than Italy. It holds 59 UNESCO World Heritage Sites, more than any other nation. Rome, Florence, Venice, Milan, Naples. Each city alone could sustain an entire country's tourism industry. In 2024, 57.8 million international tourists visited Italy, generating $58.7 billion in revenue. But Italy's tourism story is also one of fragility. Venice has imposed a €5 day tripper entry fee and is actively limiting cruise ship access. The Trevi Fountain in Rome now has barriers to control crowds, and the Cinque Terre region limits trail access during peak season. What sets Italy apart from every other country on this list is the sheer impossibility of seeing it all. You could visit Italy 10 times and barely scratch the surface. Southern Italy, Puglia, Calabria, Sicily, remains largely undiscovered by mass tourism despite being equally stunning. The Italian government knows this, and its strategy is becoming clear: don't attract more tourists. Just redirect the ones already coming toward the places that need them. Number 4. Turkey. In 2003, Turkey welcomed just 14 million tourists. In 2024, it welcomed 60.6 million, a fourfold increase in 2 decades. No major country on this list has grown faster. And the secret weapon nobody talks about? Medical tourism. In 2024, 1.5 million international patients traveled to Turkey specifically for medical procedures, generating $3 billion. Hair transplants, dental work, cosmetic surgery, procedures that cost 5 to 10 times more in Western Europe. Turkish hospitals offer the same quality at 50 to 70% lower prices. Istanbul alone welcomes over 15 million international visitors annually, making it one of the most visited cities on Earth. The city straddles two continents, Europe and Asia, with a history spanning the Roman, Byzantine, and Ottoman empires. But Turkey's real competitive advantage is price-to-value ratio. A 5-star hotel in Antalya costs what a 3-star costs in Barcelona. A full dental implant in Istanbul costs what the consultation alone costs in London. Turkey isn't just a destination. It's becoming the world's one-stop shop for holidays that also fix your teeth. Number 3. The United States. The U.S. ranks just third in arrivals, but first in revenue. By a landslide, $215 billion. That's 12% of all tourism revenue on the entire planet. More than Spain, Turkey, and Italy combined. The reason is simple. Everything in America costs more. A hotel room in Manhattan averages $375 per night. A family day at Disney World costs over $600. A week in Las Vegas can easily exceed $3,000. Each international visitor to the U.S. spends an average of $2,970, nearly 4 times what tourists spend in Mexico and 5 times what they spend in Greece. The U.S. attracted 72.4 million international visitors in 2024. But here's what's fascinating. The U.S. has never been the most visited country. Not once. Despite having New York, Los Angeles, the Grand Canyon, Miami, Hawaii, and Las Vegas, the U.S. has always ranked behind France and Spain. The reason? Visa complexity and geographic distance. Getting a U.S. visa is among the most difficult tourist visa processes in the world. For most of the planet, visiting France requires a 2-hour flight and no visa. Visiting America requires a 10-hour flight, a visa interview, and a wait of several months. The U.S. doesn't need more tourists. It needs the ones it gets to spend, and they do. Number 2. Spain. In July 2024, 3,000 protesters from 140 organizations marched down La Rambla in Barcelona, chanting "Tourists go home," while squirting water guns at passing tourists. In the Canary Islands, between 20,000 and 50,000 residents took to the streets demanding a temporary ban on tourism. Spain received 93.8 million tourists in 2024, nearly double its own population of 48 million. Tourism generates 12.3% of Spain's GDP and 126 billion euros in annual spending. But housing prices in Barcelona have risen 68% in the past decade, driven largely by short-term vacation rentals. The average rent now exceeds what most locals can afford. Barcelona's mayor announced that all 10,000 short-term rental licenses in the city will be eliminated by 2028. Spain's problem is the most extreme version of a pattern we've seen across this entire list. Tourism that's too successful for its own good. The locals who built the culture tourists come to experience are being priced out of the very cities they created. Spain generates extraordinary wealth from tourism. The question is who that wealth actually benefits. Number 1. France. For 30 consecutive years, France has been the most visited country on Earth. Not once has any nation taken this title away. In 2024, 102 million international tourists crossed into France. The second year in a row it surpassed the 100 million mark. That's more tourists than the populations of Germany, Canada, and Australia combined. And yet, here's the paradox. France generates $77 billion in tourism revenue. Spain generates $106 billion. With 8 million fewer tourists, Spain makes $29 billion more. France has the lowest per tourist spending of any European country on this list, just $755 per visitor. The Eiffel Tower, the most visited paid monument in the world, saw 6.3 million visitors in 2024 with a record 96% satisfaction rate. The Louvre remains the world's most visited museum. And the 2024 Paris Olympics drove a massive tourism spike, with the Eiffel Tower serving as the centerpiece of the opening ceremony. But the real secret to France's dominance isn't Paris. It's geography. France borders 8 countries. It has Atlantic and Mediterranean coastlines, alpine skiing, wine regions, beach resorts, medieval villages, and a high-speed rail network that connects it all. Most European tourists can reach France in under 3 hours. It's simply the easiest great country to visit. That's why nobody has beaten it in 30 years. And nobody will anytime soon. From Greece's overwhelmed islands to France's unbreakable 30-year reign, 10 countries that reveal tourism isn't just about landmarks and beaches. It's about currency crashes, medical procedures, infrastructure, and the growing tension between the people who visit and the people who live there. The data tells one story, the protests tell another, and the truth is somewhere in between. Which country on this list surprised you the most? And which would you visit first? The affordable powerhouse of Turkey or the cultural heavyweight of Italy? Drop your answer in the comments. If you want to see more data-driven rankings, hit subscribe. We rank the world every single week.